What do younger men need to know now that you didn't, maybe you didn't even know?
I would say across the board, not just men, but because of the fact that I see less men in my practice, is that there, for every 10 years that you age, you lose 10% of your flexibility. Now,
Oh,
that
wow.
might not seem like a big thing right now, because if you're a young guy, you still have your suppleness, you still move fairly well. It slowly catches up to you, right?
Hmm.
And if you don't prioritize your mobility and your movement early on,
Hmm.
then it becomes a lot harder for you to do it later on in life.
A growing health, wellness, and leadership podcast designed for you to become your most empowered self.
Great day, amazing humans. Welcome to the Empowered in My Skin podcast, where our mission is to help 1 billion people in this world think in more empowering ways. Empowered humans empower humans. So you are the right spot to become a lead domino for empowerment today. So let the show begin. Great day, amazing humans. Yes, welcome to the next episode of Empowered in My Skin. It's a guest episode, but it's also the second episode of our men's health series that we are featuring here in November for Movember. And our guest, as you can see, so YouTubers, I know you can see this amazing guest, but our guest is on a mission to prove that strength isn't only built in the gym, it's built through movement, mindset, and mastery of self. A leader in functional wellness, blending science, soul, and skill to help people reconnect with their bodies and reclaim their power. From hands on healing to empowering education, his mission is simple yet profound. Movement is medicine. So please join me in a gigantic, massive podcast welcome to the amazing Andrew AJ James.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me on.
Can
It's
you
a
hear,
pleasure to
can you
be
hear
here.
all the yelling and shouting?
Yeah.
And yeah. Welcome. So
Thank
excited.
you.
Transparently, this is like my fascial stretch therapist. So I was just laughing because I was like, hold on, we're in a different seat right now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're in my world.
Yeah. The ball is now in your
The
court.
ball's in my court. You get to do what I tell you to do now.
Exactly. Exactly.
Except guess what? It's not going to be as painful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe not
so
physically, but maybe emotionally. I don't know. We might be tapping into
oh,
some
we'll see. We'll
deep-rooted
see.
stuff. So,
Well, it all depends on where
uh,
you go. And then
yeah.
signature first question I ask
Mhm.
everybody is what has been your most empowering thoughts you've had of the day so far?
The most empowering thoughts I've had for the day. That's a very interesting question. I guess for me, it would be being more comfortable in failing forward. Yeah, because for me, really I've had issues with failing in the past, and I put a lot into what I do, and
Mm,
sometimes I have this limiting mindset or this limiting belief where failure is this negative thing and
mhm,
it means defeat. And changing that paradigm and remembering that failing is all part of the growing process. And even from the perspective of training, which I know you do quite heavily as well. So when training, it's like you're trying to push beyond, like beyond your limits. And
mhm.
sometimes failing is part of the process, it's part of that growing pain that you experience. And so for me, it's just understanding that, remembering that, and then adopting that into my everyday life as a way of motivating myself to keep pushing forward despite any perceived failures. Because really, it's not failure, it's only failure if you quit.
Make it. Yeah. Right. It's a
Yeah.
mindset then, right?
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
all about perspective. But I like that because especially since this is November month series, men's health series, in your conversations with like your father or your friends, male friends, what's your thoughts in terms of men, like societal pressure that men have that then exasperates what you're talking about? Like how much of that is external pressures that are imposed that you feel are imposed upon you, but really, and what's been your experience in terms of recognizing that they're not that true?
I think the biggest thing, and I don't know if this answers your question, but I feel like a lot of men have a hard time being vulnerable
Mm,
and showcasing their emotions because society puts this stigma in your head pertaining to men, particularly, that showing your emotions is a display of weakness and that men
mm,
always have to be strong and they have to be stoic and
mm,
they have to show up and exude physical prowess and whatnot. And anything beyond below that is is deemed as weakness. And I think men, including myself, sometimes still struggle with that and struggling with that belief system of expressing yourself and showing your emotions is a sign of weakness, which I know it's not. It takes a very bold individual, be that male or female, to share their emotions and express how they're feeling, right? And so I think men still struggle with that quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
My dad is a big proponent of that. Like he has a hard time sometimes expressing himself, and we're not the type of individuals that like really express our emotions to one another. It's felt, but it's not really said.
Yeah.
I think it's like a male thing, whereas,
Yeah.
oh, two guys shouldn't be expressing themselves in that way, which is a silly way to think, but I think it still plagues a lot of men to this day. And I think that's a big problem because if men don't have an outlet to express themselves and they keep
Mm-hmm.
it bottled in, then what are the repercussions of that from holding and keeping that all stored inside? That's stagnant energy that just like builds over time, and if it doesn't have a way of coming out in a constructive
Mm,
way, then it becomes destructive.
yeah.
Yeah.
And if I take you back to when do you recall, let me just ask you a question. Do you recall maybe
Yeah.
the first time you ever dared to be vulnerable with your feelings? Do you have any recollection of
I,
that?
I'll be honest, I wear my heart on my sleeve quite a bit. And
Okay,
so
for a really long time?
yeah, but I've always felt, I don't know if guilty is the right word, but if I've ever expressed myself or if I'm in a relationship with someone and I like they do something that I really don't like and I speak on it, I sometimes feel like "Ah, I'm a man. I shouldn't be feel I should man
Yeah.
up." And so I struggle with that sometimes, but I'm I've gotten better over the years of being honest with my emotions and my feelings and expressing them, but making sure that I express them in a very constructive way because I
Hmm.
feel like so I have this analogy that I use where it's in terms of like emotions and it's basically just energy, right? It's not, we sometimes get in the habit of labeling like certain emotions as good or bad, like anger is a negative emotion versus happiness being a positive emotion, but really it's just energy. It only becomes a problem depending on how you utilize that energy,
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
emotion. So it's imagine you have a candle and you light the candle. That's the same energy that you would have if you lit a piece of paper on fire, right? One is controlled, but if you let the piece of paper kind of run wild, it could blow up it could set fire to your whole house, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's a
yeah.
matter of what you do with that emotion. It's the difference between a rally for something that you stand for versus a
Mhm.
riot. And
Ooh,
so, yeah,
ooh, rally versus riot. I like that. That was
yeah.
another good analogy. Have you shared
Thank
that
you.
one publicly before? Is it the first time here
Yeah,
on this? Uh,
once before, yeah, yeah.
do you and your friends, and by the way, like I said, you're guiding this interview, so you're a little bit because I don't have any of this conversation on this piece of
Oh,
paper with all of your questions.
asking really good questions. So I'm
It started with
again.
you. You said you open it up. But do you and your friends talk about your male friends talk about
Yeah.
vulnerability? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have some really cool or close connections that I have with like my really close circle of guy friends that we definitely talk about. We get together every once in a while and we talk about myriad of different things. But yeah, we've definitely talked about vulnerability and we've shared our feelings and whatnot. And the good thing about that, especially having a brotherhood like that, is that y'all provide a safe space for one another. So we never judge or criticize each other or say, "Oh, stop being so soft." You know what I mean? We listen and we don't judge.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'm lucky and fortunate in that, and that I have a safe space in terms of people that I can go to, especially like other males that I can have these conversations with. And yeah, sadly, not everyone has that, and so they
Yeah.
don't have that outlet to
Yeah.
share and express themselves the way that they would like to. And yeah, that can
Yeah.
cause problems for people mentally. So
Yeah, I see that a
yeah,
lot. And I can actually see when somebody has this avenue or this outlet to be able to exercise their emotions and versus those that don't, like
yeah,
very different. Thank you. Thank you for sharing in that way. So you've built a career that blends therapy, coaching, and movement. I think I get a bit of all of that as part of our
yeah.
sessions, but also purpose. Because
Mhm,
I remember, I think it was our very first session, you had this
mhm.
thing called belief, like this sign
Yeah,
of belief on top of your door. So, what originally led you to this work, and how has your own personal journey shaped the way that you show up for others today?
that's a fantastic question. So, what originally led me to this work was I started off in the industry as a personal trainer. Prior to that, I was in film because I actually grew up with a learning disability. So, I had this complex of, okay, everyone kept telling me that the ceiling is the limit as opposed to the sky. And I felt very boxed in terms of what I could actually get into as a career. And so at the time when I was like much younger, I figured I only had two options. I was either going to do something in dance because I used to break dance back in the day, or I was going to do something in film because those were my two passions. And long story short, the film thing didn't pan out the way I wanted it to. And so there was a period of time where I was in a transitional phase where I was trying to figure out where I wanted to go next. And then it led me into personal training because that became another passion of mine where I was training myself and I really enjoyed it. So I was like, okay, why don't I do this for others? Right.
Mhm.
So I started becoming a personal trainer, really enjoyed that, was starting to get a lot of clients and they were starting to get like really good results, looking good. But there was one problem. They were sometimes coming in with injuries and ailments, right? They were still looking good, but it's like, what's the point of looking good if you don't feel the
Great.
same? So I was like, okay, I feel like there's something missing in my skill set. And so that eventually led me into exploring other avenues related to wellness and health. And so I got into fascial stretch therapy. And then from there, I was getting really good results and people were loving it. But then they're like, oh, but I don't want to always have to pay out of pocket. So it's like, okay, so now I gotta continue to expand my skill set. And then
Ah.
I got my license for massage therapy. And yeah, now I'm here and I'm continuing to grow my skill set and learn new things and evolve as I go. And I'm loving the process.
Wow, I love that. And so,
Yeah.
this being the month of Movember, and you obviously having both female and male clients, what, just the starting question, what fundamentally differences do you see in terms of how women show up for therapy versus men? As a starting question, I have more to double click on, but
Okay.
yeah.
So that's a good question. So majority of my clientele are actually women. And I think that's primarily because most men, and I don't mean to group all men in this category or stereotype in any way, but men don't really value like the mobility aspect and
Mm,
their health in the same way that women tend to do, is in my experience as I found. And so I think that's a large contribution to why I see more female clients than I do men.
mhm,
That's slowly starting to change. I am seeing a few more guys come into my treatment room for treatment as they age because they're starting to see the importance of being able to move well and be strong, not just externally, but internally as well. But yeah, to answer your question, I think it's just women just tend to be more focused and fixated on their health and longevity.
overall health and longevity.
Overall, yeah, men are more kind of focusing about the aesthetics and they prioritize a lot of other things in their lives. Like some of them chase money, some of them chase other things. And in terms of their health, it falls by the wayside and it's less of a priority until they absolutely really need it. And then that's when
Mhm.
I start to see a lot of men from literally ground zero where they're just completely broken and I have to build them back up from the ground up.
Okay, that was a double. I was going to double click on that. I was going to say, when they show up, are they showing up from a place of health or are they showing up from a place of injury? And so you have the
Hmm.
microphone right now. And I think that both of us, we're in an age where we have experience, and experience then builds wisdom, and wisdom allows us to tell stories to help people that are coming up behind us. So for younger men, what would you love them to know? What would you love to
Hmm.
debunk for them that might get
Hmm.
them into the door earlier before they're actually coming to you with, what do younger men need to know now that maybe you didn't even know?
I would say across the board, not just men, but because of the fact that I see less men in my practice, is that there, for every 10 years that you age, you lose 10% of your flexibility. Now,
Oh,
that
wow.
might not seem like a big thing right now, because if you're a young guy, you still have your suppleness, you still move fairly well. It slowly catches up to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't prioritize your mobility and your movement early on,
Mm-hmm.
then it becomes a lot harder for you to do it later on in life. It's not impossible. You can still get back a lot of those gains that you had when you were younger, but if you take care of it early, then it's less work and less effort that you have to put into it at an older age. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think that's a big important thing to highlight because we often think that the like age just age in general has a lot to do with the degeneration of our bodies, and that's age is a very small factor in that. It's the fact that as we get older, we have a lot more priorities in our lives. Like whether you have kids, that they become the priority, or you start getting more bombarded with your work duties, you start putting yourself second to everything else,
Mm.
and you stop prioritizing yourself and your physical and mental and emotional needs. And that, I think, is what is the biggest contribution to the aging process, in terms of you like being like run down. Because it's like you'll see a 70-year-old who still looks and moves like they're in their early 20s or 30s. And then you'll see the same another 70-year-old who looks like they look like the
Age.
Crypt Keeper, and they've
Yeah,
aged,
yeah.
and they're moving like slow, and everything is just all broken down on them and everything. And it's just okay, it's two different people, but they had two different mindsets when it came to priorities and their training and their health and longevity. And so I think that's a important thing to highlight and be aware of.
So you often say movement is medicine,
Mhm.
which is I think what you're talking about now. And so can you share a moment of, a lot of times we come up with these things for ourselves. Have you had a moment of truth where that was born from, or is it more like something that has been born from your experience of working with other humans in your practice?
It's a mix of both. I think I've experienced it firsthand for myself. I try not to use myself too much as an example, because I grew up as a dancer, right? And so
Mhm.
I never stopped moving like that.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
as I've gotten older, I have more priorities and everything. But for me, I feel like I grew up in the movement world to some capacity, right? If it wasn't dancing, I was doing martial arts. If it wasn't that, I was doing gymnastics. So I always had
Oh, you
movement.
did gymnastics and martial arts?
Yeah, like I dabbled in it. I wasn't like professionally in it or
Uh-huh.
anything, but I used to do like tumbles and all kinds of stuff.
Mhm.
And I really enjoyed that as a kid. And it transitioned into adulthood in terms of like my profession now. I try not to use myself per se as an example, but I have seen it in other cases with a lot of my other clients who, like I said, who some of them come in from
Mhm.
ground zero, and I work with them and I build them back up. And when I say like it's a team effort, right? Like
Yeah.
I have this issue with like certain people who say, "Oh, I'm a healer. I'm doing all this," you know what I mean, in that in our profession, because it's like we're facilitating the healing process. The nervous system is very intelligent and it knows
Mhm.
how to do its own healing. We're just providing that stimulus to help facilitate that into that process. It's similar to if you were in my treatment room and I turned up the thermostat to where it was really hot, what would your body do? You would start to sweat as a way of regulating your core temperature. But conversely, if I turned it down, your body would start to shiver as a way of
Mhm.
warming yourself up. So I'm facilitating the
I get it.
physiological changes that are happening in your body, but I'm not actually doing
Yes,
the
I get it. You're
actual
not,
work. You know what I
yes,
mean?
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, hopefully that answers your
Yeah,
question.
no, that's a great way to,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
beyond that,
yeah,
you
yeah.
took us on a little bit more of a journey too. So mobility. So one of the things
Hmm.
I have, so maybe I'm just picking your expertise. Mobility, flexibility are different.
Yes,
Then you also have strength.
yes.
Yeah. Can you maybe qualify for us? Like to me, that's an ecosystem that I think is brings overall wellness. And
Mm.
I think what I understood from you earlier is men tend to overemphasize strength and
Yes,
aesthetics
yes.
and might be missing mobility. And then there's
Hmm.
also flexibility.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so flexibility is the precursor to mobility. You do need flexibility. Flexibility is important, but to differentiate the two, flexibility is, to put it simply, it's your passive range of motion. So let's say, just to paint a picture for your audience, let's say you were on the table, you were on your back, and I took your leg, I kept the leg completely straight, and I lift the leg to do a hamstring stretch for you, right? So I'm assisting you in, and I'm trying to test to see how far you can go. That's your passive range of motion. That's a demonstration of flexibility. Now, if we take that same action, but I'm not involved in that process, and I get you
Mm.
to now lift your leg up as high as you can in the same fashion that we did with the passive range, that's your active range of motion. And that's more of a demonstration of your mobility. So that's a combination of flexibility, strength, and control. So, flexibility, sometimes you'll hear people say flexibility is useless. It's not necessarily useless because, like I said, it's a precursor to mobility. You can't have one without the other. But It's useless from the standpoint of if you were to play a sport, or let's say, for example, martial arts, right? Where let's say you have to do a front kick to somebody's face. Sorry to get super violent there, but
No, it's
let's say you have to kick
okay.
someone in the face, right? That would be a demonstration of your active range of motion, right? I can't, if you're in martial arts and you're trying to kick someone in the face, I can't then show up and be like, okay, I'm going to lift your leg so you can kick this guy. You got to be able to do it yourself,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So that's why sometimes you'll hear people say flexibility is useless because it's the passive range of motion. And you'll always have more passive range than you will active range. But we're
Mhm.
trying to close that gap as therapists as best as possible. So that's where
Okay.
the strength component comes in, the strength and
Mhm.
control. The reason why it's important is because some people just focus on just building muscle and they're just working on the aesthetic part of everything. But that doesn't address your mobility aspect because we want to be able to move in a variety of different ways. We want variability in our movement. So when you squat, we want to make sure that you have the adequate prerequisites in order to squat. So I don't want to get super technical for your audience, but like when we're breaking down like the biomechanics of a squat, there's a lot of moving parts that are involved in a squat. A squat is not just a squat where you're just
Mhm.
dropping your butt down to the floor, right? You need adequate amount of ankle mobility, mobility, and then hip mobility. And if you don't have that, your brain likes to take the path of least resistance. If you're trying to go from the top position of a squat to the bottom position of squat, but you don't have the prerequisites in your hip or your ankle, you're still telling your brain, I still want to go down. I want to drop it like it's hot. So it's going to try and find the path of least resistance, and it might find it in areas that don't normally support that load in your squat. And
And
so
is
over
that where you're
time,
starting to overcomp, like
you
you
start
to
to
maybe damage certain areas because you're not squatting correct?
absolutely. You start to
Okay. Hmm.
overcompensate. You put more stress on the ankles. You put more stress on the knees. The knees may maybe
Hmm.
start to cave in, and people disregard that and they just squat anyway.
Yeah.
And that's how injuries happen, right? Because if you don't have the capacity for certain ranges of motion, and then you're adding load to that capacity, then what do you
Hmm.
think is going to happen? That's
Yeah.
a recipe for disaster every time.
Hmm. I think that's why I'm on the table with you. Because sometimes you think just because you can do it, you do it. But to your
Yeah.
point, I've learned so much in
Hmm.
working with you and also from that, then doing a little bit more research on my own. And I'm just like,
Hmm.
man, why couldn't I have been introduced to like fascial stretch therapy like way back when I was
Hmm.
healthy, not
Yeah.
necessarily coming to you when I'm not feeling well. So I'm going to digress, but because you put your arms up, I saw the F. So you're wearing a flow shirt,
Oh,
aren't you?
yeah. So
So yeah,
basically, it's
yeah,
free your restrictions,
yes.
live pain free, optimize your movement, win back your body. So
So
it's
how did you
flow
come
body.
back with that? Because that's flow body is you, is your,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. So talk to us a bit
Yeah.
about that.
I was just in my creative mind and I was just like, okay, like how do I turn this into my own personal messaging or my mission statement in terms of what I do? That way it can help me remember what my actual mission is, my pitch,
Mm,
so to speak,
yeah,
in
yeah.
terms of like when people ask you like, "Oh, what do you do?" Whereas I free people from restrictions, I help people live pain-free, optimize their movement, win back their body. And it's, oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's a
So
great.
yeah, and so that's essentially what I do. I help to assess where you're restricted. We address those restrictions and we do our best to free you of those restrictions so that you can live pain-free and then optimize your movement by getting you to move better once we've eliminated the tension that you're holding in your body due to any kinds of dysfunctional issues that you might have. And then basically you get to win back your body, right?
Mm,
You get to be comfortable in the body that you're in as opposed to
mhm.
always pushing through pain. Or you'll often hear people say, I have this hip thing, but I've had it for so long that I just deal with it, I live with it. And it's just like,
Chronic mid, yeah.
yeah, and you don't want to live like that. You don't want to live with the pain or accept it as this is how my life is going to be. That's
Is
not a
that
way
one
to
of the
live.
myths? Is that one of the myths that you frequently have to debunk?
Yeah, that pain is something that you're forever going to have to live with, and I don't think that's true.
What's another myth that you love to debunk?
That's another myth. There's a lot of myths around foam rolling, like myofascial release, in that it breaks up scar tissue, or that like massage therapy breaks up scar tissue, and that's just not the case. Fascia and scar tissue are very dense and robust. Then, in fact, fascia can withstand 2,000 pounds of pressure. So it's like I'm lifting weight in the gym, but I'm not that strong to the point where I can manipulate 2,000 pounds of pressure. So my hands don't have that ability to do that. So there's that for sure.
So what does foam rolling do?
So foam rolling, basically, it hydrates the tissue, it warms up the tissue, and it can give you temporary range of motion for
Mhm.
about, if I'm being generous, 15 minutes. It's not completely useless. I feel like if paired with other things, like you and I, when we work together, we
Yes,
do what's
yes.
called the pails and rails, which is an
Mhm.
isometric contraction. So if you pair foam rolling with that, then I think it could be very advantageous overall, because the reason why foam rolling is only half the battle is because it's a passive input, and passive input will only get you passive results. You need something that's
Mm.
active. So
And that's
that's my
rails are active.
pails and rails. Yeah, any kind of mobility work is going to be active inputs that your nervous system will adapt to over time.
And now back into the like societal, what is it? No, I don't want to say norms, but like shares. There's a lot of, I think about it. My husband will probably say that I'm guilty of this myself as a female, but push through the pain. Like,
Yeah,
don't show you're hurt.
yeah.
Like, so how do you redefine discipline? Like like rather than push through the pain, but staying committed to the things you want to do, how would you redefine discipline, and how can men start to move past those, I'm just going to say, horrible ways of
It,
living? Yeah.
horrible ways. So are we talking just in general, or are we
Yes,
talking
just in
like
general.
men?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a have you ever read the book Flow by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi?
No.
No? Okay. So he was a, I think he was Hungarian psychologist who wrote the book on flow. And you hear flow, flow is in my name, but you
Yeah.
hear flow
A lot.
being, yeah, it's in yoga, it's in everything. And it's become this trendy buzzword, but flow actually was coined by this gentleman, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, and he describes it as the state of optimal experience.
Mm.
And basically, it's this push and pull between tension and relaxation. So, in order to get into flow, you need a mix of both. And he has in his book that he illustrates this point using an actual flow chart, where it's a challenge versus skill level. And to explain it, it's if think of any problem that you've had in your life, or any challenge, or if you're in the gym, or if it's a physical, emotional, mental, whatever the challenge might be, if the challenge far exceeds your level of skill, then you're going to be
Hmm.
met with anxiety, and it's going to
Hmm.
knock you out of flow. On the contrary, if your skill level far exceeds the level of challenge, you're going to be met with boredom.
Yeah.
In order to get into flow, you need a healthy balance of tension and relaxation. And they usually gauge that as a 4% challenge. So as long as the challenge is like 4% beyond your skill level, you're in
Hmm.
that healthy state of that. It's like the Goldilocks
Okay.
effect. It's not too
Hmm.
hot, not too cold.
Yeah.
It's right in the middle where, you're in that flow state. And so I think in terms of your question and adopting that discipline, where it's like you're not trying to push beyond your limits and get to that pain threshold and beat your body or your mental to oblivion, right? You want to just find that 4% challenge of that stimulus that's going to be enough to the point where you're not super anxious, but you're also very engaged. And I think
Yes.
it's the same thing that happens in training, right? When you're in the gym, it's like if you're a strong individual. So if I gave you like 10-pound dumbbells to do bicep curls, and I'm like, this is going to build your muscle, you look at me and like, you're crazy. What is this going to do? But if I gave you like 200-pound dumbbell, and I'm like, here, lift this, your chance of injury goes up significantly, right? But
Mm.
you have to find
I
that
get it.
healthy medium range.
Where it's still
So
challenging enough, but
yes,
it's not killing me, and
exactly.
I'm not bored.
Right.
I
And that's
like
going to
that.
be
Yeah.
subjective for everyone. You
Yeah.
just have
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
find what your 4% challenge,
Hmm.
and that's
Hmm.
what keeps you disciplined. So if you're in that 4% range, then you're
Hmm.
always going to be stimulated. You're always going to be like, oh, I want to do this. It's like with
Yeah.
me, I started taking up drumming during COVID. I got a drum set, and I get frustrated because I'm like trying to learn like the rhythm and the pattern and everything. And it was like I would go for hours trying to figure it out. And I was like, okay, you know what? No, I'm gonna go 15 minutes until I start to reach my frustration point, and then I'm going
Yeah.
to take a break, and then I'll come
And then
back
come
and I'll
back to
do it
it.
again.
Have
Yeah,
you improved?
I have. Yeah,
Do you still
I
play?
have. Oh yeah, yeah. I practice almost every day.
Oh wow, wow!
Yeah, 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 yeah,
You'll have to.
yeah,
I'm sure you have some recordings of yourself.
yeah.
You create your own beats.
I can't. I wouldn't start a band with my skill level, but I mean, but I mean, I can hold a tune. I can hold a tune.
I love drums, by the way. I
Yeah,
play
yeah.
piano. I
Oh,
play
okay,
piano.
okay.
Yeah, I play
Yeah,
piano. But oh my gosh, I love drums. I love drums. And I
yeah.
love when they do their
Oh,
solo
yeah,
and then the whole band is just, and then
yeah.
they're
I love it.
standing and then they throw their sticks.
Yeah, some of them really are really good with the tricks, and
Oh my God, it's incredible.
yeah,
Yeah, I think it's
yeah.
really talented. So it's interesting because as you were talking about it, a book, my mind went to this book called, and I haven't read it yet. I got it from my
Hmm.
niece for Christmas. This is so bad. I have such a laundry list of books to read, but it's called Do Hard Things. And now I'm
Okay.
wondering, in what you said, I wonder, I'm actually interested as like when I crack
Hmm.
that open, if there will be some elements of that, because I do believe what you explained, you can still like that whole 4% is doing something beyond what you've done before. So it's
Yeah,
probably, but it sounds, that actually sounds like, because sometimes when I think do hard things, it's something that totally takes me out of my comfort zone. But I,
yeah,
what you just explained, because you are out of your comfort zone, but you're not so far out that,
yeah,
you're like that anxious anxiety and all this, any other, can I
yeah.
actually do this?
Absolutely.
And healthy balance. I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah.
I love that. My gosh, we're on like we are over the time that I actually said to you. That's the listeners. Don't hang up yet. Don't hang up yet. We are going to take you through some rapid thrivers. Okay.
Okay.
When you think of someone who inspires you, who comes first to mind?
Oh gosh, I would say my dad. Yeah, my dad. He inspires me. He's gone through a lot, and he's although Batman is my favorite superhero,
Yeah, I know. I saw your
he's
cup.
yeah, yeah. Batman is my favorite superhero, but he's my favorite hero.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's really nice. I hope he listens to
yeah.
this podcast and hears that. Yeah. What is a daily activity that helps you with your thrive?
I would say meditation. Meditation is huge for me. I notice a difference when I don't meditate versus when I do. And it's a very subtle difference, but I notice that whenever I do meditate, I'm less irritable and able to handle the world a little bit better. I'm not always diligent with it. I'll openly admit that. But yeah, meditation is something that I swear by.
And I told you I always break the rules with these rapid fibers, so I have to ask. And what's your method of meditation? Do you like how do you like on a good day, what would that look like?
So I try to go 5, 10 minutes. I like doing meditation with binaural beats. So I'll have headphones in and it just helps lower my brain waves. And I tend to focus on either my breath or I focus on a particular word or I do some kind of visualization. So it varies depending on how I'm feeling. I know you're a big fan of visualization. And so ever since I spoke to you, I started adopting more visualization into my practice. And so I actually visualize for this podcast,
Oh, did
believe it or
you? Oh,
not.
wow, you're
Yes, I
doing a
did.
great job. I
Yeah.
hope you
Thank
like
you.
visualize at least this can be one of the best episodes ever.
Absolutely, for sure.
So thank you for that. What is a book that has
Mm.
helped you with your thrive?
Oh, probably it was a book by Shannon Lee, Bruce Lee's daughter, called Be Water, My Friend. That's one of my favorite books.
Is
I've
that like
read
another
it.
flow book? Is
Yeah,
this
yeah.
okay?
Yes, there's elements of flow in,
Mhm.
but yeah, it took a lot of she basically took a lot of Bruce Lee's teachings and integrated into the modern world and how it
Mhm.
can be applicable to us today. And it's a book that I've read several times over. And I'm the type of person I write in my books, so I can't actually loan my books out to anyone
Yeah.
because I write notes and stuff. But it's good because I rather than reading the entire book over and over again, I just flip back and I read the notes. And then if something really captivating hits me, then I'm like, oh, okay, let me read that chapter again
Yeah,
and
yeah.
see if it resonates in a different way.
So I don't know the title. Sometimes I always feel like titles are so powerful. Be
Hmm.
Water, My Friend, almost to me feels like it's, I don't know. It sounds like it might be a book that's like that's the first thought is I thought about flow. Because what's the one thing about
Hmm.
water is that there is a path, it flows and there's usually a
Yeah,
path that it follows.
yeah,
Interestingly enough, and it could bank out, but
yeah,
it's not scattered,
exactly.
right? Every avenue it finds its avenue to be able to flow and navigate and keep moving.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what the book is?
Yeah, Bruce Lee, he was on a show when he was alive. I can't remember what the show was, but he said that water can flow or it can crash. You put water into a teacup, it becomes the teacup. You put water
Yeah.
into a pot, it becomes the pot. Like water is very adaptable, right? So
Mm-hmm.
basically, what he's saying is to find your flow, you have to learn how to adapt to your environment wherever
Environment.
you are. And you've spoken on this in our sessions before in terms of knowing your surroundings, knowing your environment, and then learning to adapt and be part of that experience, be immersed, be present. And so that's essentially what flow or be water is
Yeah.
all about.
Yeah. And by the way, to anyone that just heard him say that, he charges me for our
Yeah.
sessions and I give him free therapy. I get zero invoicing, but what is an app that helps you with your Thrive?
What is an app that helps me with my Thrive? With my Thrive, I would say there's an app that I use. It's called Body Sync,
Mhm.
and basically it syncs to my watch. And
Okay.
so I wear my Apple Watch to bed every night, and so it tracks my vitals. And so in the morning when I check the Sync, it'll basically tell me what my HRV level is. HRV is different from, HRV stands for heart rate variability, which is different
Mhm.
from your heart rate. So
Mhm.
your heart rate is the number of beats per minute, and then the heart rate variability is the varying changes within those beats.
Mhm.
And so when you have a very high HRV, it's an indication that you're ready for the day. You're ready to train and
Mhm.
whatnot. And if it's super low, then it means that you're either fighting an illness or you're still in recovery mode. And so
Okay.
that right there, when I track that, is a good indication as to whether or not, okay, like maybe I shouldn't train today because I run the risk of breaking my body down even more.
Yeah, yeah.
So I use that kind of as a way of staying in flow.
Oh, I think it was funny because a lot of people wear that ring, the
Yeah, the Aura ring, or
yeah, the Oura ring or something that's
yeah.
similar
So
to
it's
that.
yeah, very similar to that. Yeah,
Okay, I
yeah,
might. I was gonna get the Oura ring because I think I'm a believer. Ugh, I'm converted.
yeah,
Yeah, but now
yeah.
that you're telling me that, I think maybe because I have a watch, I may have
Oh
to try
yeah,
it.
yeah. I'll
Yeah.
send you the app.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what is final question here? What is one
Mhm.
misconception that people have of you, Andrew?
Okay, and I think you had this misconception too, and it's not a misconception. I feel like it's a pre-assumption. But so when you first meet me, a very shy and quiet individual. I don't speak much. And but contrast to that, when you see my videos, I'm very animated, I'm very engaging, I'm very like out there and whatnot. And so if people see my videos first and then they meet me in person, the number one thing that I always get told is you're very different online versus in person.
Yeah.
Until then, they start to get to know me a little bit better, and they're like, "Oh, okay, I see what's happening. It's starting to sync up now." I don't know if that's a misconception, but that's often the common thing that I hear with people when they interact with their first interaction or impression of me is via my videos first, and then meeting me in person.
And I was the opposite. I met you first and then I saw your videos.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
But it's interesting because, you know what, this comes to mind. I don't know if we've ever talked about it. I really don't like labels. And
Mm,
so if people obviously are not in my home with my
mhm.
most quiet times or my most
Right.
vulnerable like times. So most people think I'm quote unquote an extrovert.
Mm,
Yeah. And truth be told, it while it's so what happens is as more people are around me, the more I naturally, because my mission is to help people speak and think in ways that are empowering. And so therefore,
right.
when the humans are around, I'm
Mm.
at work. I'm in my purpose work. Then when there aren't humans around, I'm working on myself. Like I'm inwards.
Right.
And so
Yeah,
I'm not constantly, so it's something similar. And
absolutely.
I think for me, I'm the book almost like what you explained it afterwards about water adapting. It is
Hmm.
that like we tend to adapt based on who we truly are, like our
Yeah,
innermost being. We adapt to the environments that we're in. So whether we're alone or with other people or with close friends or this, any other, and and if we truly allow ourselves to be our most authentic selves, then I
yeah.
think that's where whomever we with experiences us in our fullness. Yeah. Yeah. That's
I
something that
totally
just came to
agree.
mind. Yeah.
Yeah. Bruce Lee has a lot, quote, express yourself honestly. Very
Yeah.
simple, but
Yeah.
very true and
But it's very
powerful.
true. Yeah. Express
Yeah.
yourself honestly. I like that.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you earlier, but I might as well ask you now. What is your favorite quote? You have a favorite quote?
It's another one from Bruce Lee. It's take what's useful, discard what's not, and make what's uniquely your own.
Oh, I
Yeah.
like that. I
Yeah.
like that. So, where do we find more of you online?
So my website is flowbody.co.
Mhm.
So you can find all of my services and a little bit more about me on there. I'm also on Instagram. I have two accounts, but you can follow either one, doesn't matter. But the main one is Tactivision. And then my business one is Flow Body Reset. And then I'm also on YouTube. So you can find me there as well at Flow Body Reset.
And I will share all of the links online. I'm sorry, in your show notes. And as a parting question, please finish the sentence for us. I am empowered in my skin when.
I am empowered in my skin when I'm expressing myself honestly.
Oh, I like that. That was
Yeah.
so simple. And I get it. I love that. Thank
Yeah.
you so much,
Thank
Andrew,
you.
AJ, James. This has been so awesome getting to know you better and pick your brain. And I just want to thank you for the way you show up for this world. Thank you for your vulnerability. Thank you for your sinister smile when you're putting people through pain. They're like, why are you smiling? I'm in pain.
It's out of
But
love, I promise.
I know that's what you always say. But no,
Uh,
thank you. Thank you for the
Thank
human
you.
that you are. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah,
And
it
to
was
everyone,
truly an honor.
yes, thank you.
Yeah.
And to everyone that's listening, this is Sally where I have to say, we're out. Bye bye. There you have it. I trust that you're feeling more empowered in your skin. And as the late Dr. Maya Angelou says, when you get, you give, when you learn, you teach. So it would mean so much for us at EIMS if you share this episode and tag us or teach an insight that you learned from today's episode on your socials and tag us. And remember to go over onto iTunes and leave us a review or follow us on socials at Empowered in My Skin. But most importantly, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode.